the scarier issue that you are raising, and this is something that needs to be solved. This is a problem that must be solved, and that is the partnership between private technology companies and the United States government, especially our law enforcement and intelligence services, or our intelligence community, and other elements of our government, Department of Justice. I mean, there's some need to be able to get inside of certain, to be able to listen to somebody's phones if it's a proper warrant and all that for criminal behavior. I understand all that, but what we're really talking about is a much different relationship, and this relationship between big tech and big government that now is in every aspect of our lives. I mean, let's face it, what we're using right now, this medium right now, and where I'm at, where I'm located, what I'm doing, what you're doing, what all of us are doing, is we're tracked. I mean, I am a big advocate of innovation and technology, and I used it on the battlefield with the talent of many young men and women in a very innovative way and in an enlightened way. But now, when we start to look at it to get into what is essentially our ability to freely speak our mind, our ability to freely operate as we, legally and lawfully, as we see fit in the roles that we are in. I mean, what they did to me with no predicate, none, no predicate, and what they did to Carter Page with no predicate, none, and faking it, as we've seen in some of the evidence. They talk about, and I think even in that article it talks about exculpatory evidence. I mean, exculpatory evidence. Give me a break. They were doing unlawful things to me, and as I said earlier, I have faced corruption up close and personal, and so what got me through was my faith in God and my family, and what I call true friends. But we should be scared as Americans. We should be concerned as Americans about this relationship and what they're able to do. Just based on what you described about being able to highlight where everybody was at, I guarantee they were probably looking for where was I. I was trying to get warm in my hotel room. and what I would tell you is that that freely giving of information without proper warrant, but even that, and I go back to the FISA court, okay, and I think there's 11 justices, and Chief Justice John Roberts is overall in charge of all the justices, and certainly the FISA court system and those judges. I mean, the American public just don't trust it anymore, and that's not good for a constitutional republic if we can keep it, right? As Benjamin Franklin said. So we have to be very concerned about this when we vote for people. So going forward, there's 70, 75, 80 million. Those are the numbers that have been thrown around that stood in line for Donald Trump. Let's just say it's 75 million. The 75 million people that voted can no longer just go and vote on election day. They now have to get involved in their local communities. They have to get involved in their states. They have to get involved in these congressional races, both the House and the Senate. We can't keep saying those bums who are the politicians in whatever capital or in Washington, D.C. Well, guess what? We the people are the ones that voted them in. So we have to take more responsibility.
All right. Good stuff right there. Final question. We saw the general say outright, this is something that the American people need to be scared of and they need to be concerned about. Is big tech censorship and the surveillance state being turned inward toward the domestic American audience, is that conservative boogeyman, or is that a real fear? And if it is a real fear, do we think that, as General Flynn said, that it's really going to spur the American people on to actually fight for some real change, or are we going to really see the decay of the republic in this next 10 or so years?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very real fear. I mean, I think it was last week we were talking about on the podcast how several people are several people are advising Biden that he needs to develop a thought police, that he needs to come up with a team of disinformation experts who will kind of monitor these big tech platforms like Facebook and Twitter. And I think, all that to say, I think it's already happening. I mean, like you said, with cell phones, how they're tracking people at the Capitol, people that could have been there just peacefully protesting right outside.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable that they are starting to do this. And I think that General Flynn has a great point. I think that people need to get more involved beyond just signing their name on a ballot and sticking it in the box. I think that people need to be actively pushing against this. And we were kind of talking about this a little bit before the show started, that there needs to be, but there may soon be kind of an uprising of other platforms that are going to have to come up and combat big tech. And I think that we need to see that happen soon if we're going to stop the problem of censorship.
I think I don't think it's a conservative boogeyman. The idea that AT&T or Verizon or Sprint know where you are, or Google,
Terrifying.
It's not as terrifying to me as the idea that the government may be able to find that out without a warrant. Google can't really do anything to me at the end of the day, unless they have a drone up there targeting me right now, which they very well may.
Take the shot.
Exactly. So it is the erosion of American civil liberties to some extent, and then just the ability to trust the government to do what it's supposed to do. And he's right. I mean, we voted these people in.
Yeah.
We've made our bed. Yeah, we've made our bed. So I do think it's a problem. It was really funny too. The left, right after 9/11 and the Patriot Act and the left sort of became active again and dealing with the war. They figured out how they wanted to address it, and they started talking about the Patriot Act and how much they hated it, and their movies were made about it, and V for Vendetta came out.
They were absolutely right.
Exactly. And now it's flipped, as these things do sometimes. But it is worrisome.
Yep.
It is worrisome. And look, I give Google permission to track my phone because I want to know what pizza place is closest.
Yep.
But I don't give the government permission to get that information from Google.
Absolutely.
And what a bunch of reprobates if Google's willing to just turn it over to them, because at the end of the day, Google can't pull the trigger on me. In most cases, the only legitimate arbiter of violence is the government, and the government can pull the trigger on me. And someone who can pull the trigger on you but doesn't know where you are, not that big a threat. Somebody who knows where you are can't pull the trigger, no big deal. Somebody who knows where you are and can pull the trigger, that's a problem. It's an enormous problem.